Today we are going to start a new series where we are going to talk about childhood wounds and how they manifest in relationships. And we are going to be talking about the marriage as a relationship. We are going to use marriage as the relationship example. So our series title will be When Marriage Becomes Coexistence. And we are going to do this in several episodes. Our episode 1 will be When Two Wounded People Meet. And our focus today will be on childhood wounds with two individuals who are married. One who was shaped by childhood wounds to withhold affection, and another person who learned to live without asking for affection or without having to ask for consideration. So one is pursuing and the other one is withdrawing. So let's look at an example of relationship in marriages and look at an example of a person you know that have they live together. They live together. They are married. They live in the same house. They raise children together. They share responsibility. But each one of them feels very alone. These are people, yes, that live together, but they don't meet with each other. They can talk about bills, they can talk about children, they can talk about work, food, they can even talk about responsibilities. And they even know basic, little basic things about each other. They know when a person comes home, they know about their work, they know what they like to eat. But these people, in their union together, there is no tenderness. They don't share affection. There is no emotional curiosity about each other. They have no desire for each other. The feeling of, I can't wait to be close to you, ended long time ago. So this marriage is slowly becoming a coexistence rather than a marriage, rather than a shared relationship. So today on Warrior Wellness, I want us to look at something that we don't talk about enough. When two wounded people meet and create a relationship that keeps these two people emotionally trapped. These people may be most likely they are bringing unfinished stories into the relationship. Each one of them has an inheritance of things in their own lives, individual lives, that they bring into this relationship. Let's look at a real life example. We take a man. This man was raised by an emotionally distant father. So this man learned that vulnerability is weakness. We look at a woman who was raised feeling she had to earn affection. She had to learn to tolerate emotional neglect. And therefore, when they get into a marriage, they are seeking for this emotional neglect. So we find one person who is withdrawing, in this case the man, and the other one who is pursuing, in this case the women. It gets to a point that these two people eventually stop preaching and they call that peace. Let's expound that further. Let's look at this man when he was a little boy. He grew up in a home where affection was there. His father never hugged him. Nobody ever asked him how he feels. When he cried, nobody had him. So he is told sometimes, stop being weak, mwanaume ni effort, and all these kind of paraphrases that we give. So when he needs to be comforted, he learned to comfort himself. Eventually, this little boy has grown up, is a man. He finds a woman and he may genuinely love his wife, but he may not know how to express love. He doesn't know how that touch feels comfortable. In fact, he thinks that touch is very uncomfortable. He thinks that vulnerability is not man enough. He feels threatened by being vulnerable. Talking about the emotions and how he feels becomes an unnecessary thing to do. So affection becomes very complicated for this person. Intimacy, he feels, requires emotional exposure. So it would be easier to withdraw, just like he used to do when he was a little boy. He withdrew. Let's move focus a little bit to the woman. So he marries this woman. This woman grew up differently. Affection in her childhood was very unpredictable. Sometimes her mother was loving, other times she was very emotional and available, punishing this girl. She learned very early that I am not good enough, I'm not useful enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not quiet enough. Maybe even she thought I was never loved. So she comes into this marriage carrying a deep hunger to finally belong, to be chosen. To whom? To the husband who said withdraws. So in this case, these two people, something old is activated. This woman does not experience today's rejection. No, she feels the rejection of yesterday in today's life. So she begins to ask questions. What's wrong with me? Am I not beautiful enough? Why doesn't he want me? Is it because he has another woman? Am I no longer attractive? Is it my weight? Is it my face? Is it the childbearing? So she starts to think, let me try and help this man. Let me try harder. Even religion and churches and therapists, they tell her to try harder. Wear a nice regally, cook better food, dress more differently, initiate the affection, be warm. So she tries all these things. Even she tries to bring up conversations. What is wrong with you? Why are you behaving this way? But the more she reaches, the more he withdraws, because the more he feels emotionally, um, um, he feels this woman is reaching for his emotional need, which he has learned that vulnerability is not important. So he withdraws, and the more she seeks, the more she feels rejected. Eventually, she becomes very exhausted. So she stops asking, she stops reaching, and she stops expecting. Then one day they both realize we are no longer fighting. We are simply, we are existing. And they actually think that there is peace eventually. But is there peace? Do you think there is peace in this marriage? No, what there is silence. Silence doesn't mean peace. It's actually exhaustion. It's actually emotional death. It is two people who have stopped believing that anything can change between them. Let's shift focus a little bit from these two and look at the story in the Bible of Jacob. Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. So we look at Leah and we see that Leah lived in a relationship where she desperately wanted to be chosen. The Bible actually tells us that her husband Jacob loved Rachel more than she loved Leah. So what did Leah do? She gave birth to a child and named her firstborn, "Now my husband will love me." A statement, a title of desperation. But still, Jacob loved Rachel. Think about that for a moment. Think about that woman. Think about that child. The child had become hope for her, for finally being loved. But no, love didn't happen. So she got another child and another child. Each time, she longed to be seen. She longed to be valued. She longed to be chosen. But it never happened. Rachel still remained the favorite of Jacob. You see, Leah's story is not just about a woman competing with another woman. No. It's about what happens to us when our sense of worth becomes tied to somebody's ability to choose you. It's about when our sense of worth becomes attached to being chosen by the man or the woman in our life. And today, many people live that way. They live like Claire. They don't have children to win love anymore. So they use success. So they use beauty. So they use money. They try to be the perfect spouse. They try to becoming endlessly available to someone who's not available to them. They even decide I will not complain anymore because complaining looks like it's driving him or her away. So they keep hoping. They keep telling themselves, if I become enough, maybe, just maybe, they will finally love me. But here is a painful truth. You cannot heal a childhood wound by making another wounded person responsible for proving your worth. You cannot use someone else's wound as an excuse to stop loving them. No. You can only allow yourself to heal. That's why healing matters. That's why we have books like this one. Because the emotionally distant person needs to ask, what did I learn about intimacy growing up? And the person who keeps accepting emotional deprivation needs to ask, what did I learn about what I deserve? One person may have learned that love is dangerous, so keep out of it. Vulnerability is not good, so keep out of it. Emotional presence is not good, so keep out of it. The other male have learned that love must be earned. So to be loved, you keep earning, you keep pleasing, you keep chasing. And when these two people meet, they create a painful dance. One is pursuing, the other one is withdrawing and is asking for reassurance. This makes them feel very pressured and needy. And you cannot create a relationship like that. So they eventually become distant because it is very exhausting. So eventually these two wounded people in a relationship, they don't know why they are in a relationship that is wounded and they don't even understand why. So today at Warrior Wellness, I want you to think about your own story, not about the marriage, about your own self, your own story, your identity, like I keep saying, and ask yourself, what did love look like in the home where I grew up? Was affection normal? Could people apologize? Were people allowed to say I love you? Were people allowed to express sadness without being ridiculed, without being punished? How did you feel in that home? Did you feel chosen? Did you feel seen? Did you learn that love meant performing and pleasing, enduring, staying quiet? What is it you learned? Because sometimes the relationship we call normal is simply the relationship that resembles what we grew up with. So that's why healing childhood wounds matters a lot, because they only not heal you, they also determine the kind of relationships and marriages and children you raise. So that we don't eventually get married and we are blaming our parents or we are labeling our spouses, as the narcissistic one, the toxic one, the bad one. So that we can finally recognize the patterns we carried into adulthood. Because your childhood may explain your relationship patterns. It does most of the times. But then doesn't become your identity. It doesn't become your destiny. You have the ability to change that by healing. So let's look at you as the person who withdraws, the person who keeps chasing, or the person who has stopped feeling anything at all. Maybe also you are the person who stopped feeling at all. Any love, any sadness, any anger, you're just there. The solution to this is that you must become curious about your wound, about your life before you met your partner, before you are who you are today. Think about your past, think about your childhood, think about the pains and the hurts you have experienced in life, and then show yourself compassion. And show the people that seemingly wounded you compassion. Because understanding someone's wound doesn't mean that you're accepting their harmful behavior. No, it means that you are not abandoning yourself to their own toxicity or to their own woundedness. So when we are talking about healing, we are talking about not the question now of how do I make them love me? No, we are talking about the question that ask yourself, how does this version of this person makes me feel familiar, makes love feel familiar to me? So today in Warrior Wellness, we are urging you to rewrite your story by not pretending that the past didn't happen, but we are not letting the past write the rest of your story, but taking charge of your story. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'll see you in episode 2. God bless.